too long. Hello, everyone. I'm Raina Nielsen from Garden District Bookshop, and this is Virtual Happy Hour. And thank you very much for joining us again. Today is really exciting because I have 4 guests today, which is the most we've ever had. This is going to be fun to have everyone talking together. I have invited the editors of the Peauxdunque Review to join me, and I'm going to bring them on screen here. I have Nordette Adams, who is the poetry editor. And click the button. Hello.
Hi.
And then I would like to welcome Tad Bartlett, who is the managing editor. Click that button. Hello there. And I'm going to invite Emily Choate, who is the fiction editor. And hello. And last but not least, Maurice Ruffin, who is on the editorial review board. Click that button. Ta-da! We made it!
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
I, first of all, want to thank all of you for joining me this evening. This is going to be so much fun.
We've been looking forward to it.
Definitely.
And since it's happy hour, we usually start with, what are you drinking? Mine is vodka and lemonade, which is what I had in my refrigerator, in my kitty cup. But do you guys want to share what you're drinking?
I've got, in my childhood Pac-Man mug, Mississippi corn whiskey.
Well, I too have my childhood mug from the 80s. my Annie mug that I got back in the original Annie days. But these days, it's the official whiskey receptacle in my home. So I'm drinking some Bull Rye.
Love it. Nordette, what have you got?
I have my table wine glass with vodka and cherry juice.
I love that. I love that. It looks like wine, but no.
Something more.
Maurice, what have you got?
Is that good?
It's pretty good. If you like cherry juice.
I'm on ounce 70, I think, of water today. So that's pretty much where I am.
I have some water on the other side. I have my adulting drink and my adult drink. Gotta be able to even that out a little bit.
Hydration-wise from those basketball games we had this weekend?
Yes, I am. It was epic. We played basketball last week together, and it was an epic Titanic battle.
I'm still bruised.
Is it one-on-one?
Me too.
Yes.
Yeah, it was very, very brother versus brother. Like it was, we love each other, so like just attacking each other for like 3 hours over 2 days.
Everybody who's watching, if you have any questions or comments for anybody or for the group, type it into the comments. We can see those and we will answer all of your questions. They can be about writing, about books, about the review, whatever. Type it in there. We will answer them.
Ooh, scary.
I know, you gotta just open it up. You gotta be able to go where the conversation, flows. I will say it has been tons of fun. We have talked about on Virtual Happy Hour like so many different subjects, but you always, you just kind of go be as the unhewn log, as the Taoists say, and go from there.
We have some experience with that in this group.
Yeah.
So how long has the Writers Alliance been around?
Since November of 2007. So 13 years.
Almost a full 13 years. So imagine after 13 years, you do have to develop a unhewn log sort of mentality to continue.
Yeah, without that, I think we would have hit the lifespan for a writers group a long time ago. Yeah. There have been manifestos and reinventions.
If the group were like a child, it'd be a cranky 13-year-old.
Oh. I happen to know a lot about that. I have one in the other room. So you guys are doing great.
Mascot.
If you survive the next couple of years, I think it's just smooth sailing.
Right.
So what brought all of you together to do the Writers Alliance?
This is one of y'all, Maurice.
Oh, go.
So I think so. I've been talking to students at Susquehanna University this week virtually, and a lot of the conversation has been about how do you sustain yourself as a writer, and it's a pretty simple answer: it's community. Writers need each other because writing itself is very solitary, and all of us were people who had ourselves sort of found each other. It's the idea of found family, and so Podunk is a sort of physical manifestation of that idea of found family. We came together years ago. And we have brought in new family members who had their own talents and great personalities, and we love each other so much. And so, just Podunk has been, I think, the best example of an organization that I've been involved in myself. I've been in lots of groups, and there's nothing better than this. And we're also still here, which is also surprising. People together often get into conflicts, and yet, like an 80s sitcom, our conflicts make us more hilarious and lovable over time.
Right. Yeah. So Maurice and I were there that first night in 2007, but I like this idea of found family because then we've gone out and found more family. And Emily, we found her in Arkansas, even though she's
On
not
a mountaintop.
We just found her there.
Well, yeah, I have to say, for me, I was just thinking today, it's been 9 years since that time, and it chosen family is a well-developed value for me, and I think that that's really correct, Maurice. I mean, that's at the heart of why it works and why the group has lasted. Because everyone who has been drawn in and stayed in, really to a person, has that as a very strong ethic in who they are. And when I met everybody, it was, if I could just tell it a little bit, it was in 2011 in the summertime. There was, I live in Tennessee, but there was the 1 year that the Oxford American did a summer conference. It was called the Summit for Ambitious Writers. And, we were that. We were ambitious, and so much so that we would drive to a mountain in Arkansas. And I met these people the first night of the conference, and I know they've heard this before, but I kind of met them a little bit at dinner, and then there was a round table of numerous Peaudunkians, and I sat down, and I really never got up. I mean, I sat and immediately thought, this is where I'll be. But I didn't know it'd be 9 years. And my life really shifted.
That's so perfect. When you find that group and you realize, hey, I don't want to get up. Like, I don't want to go back to my room, or I don't want to leave this. And you realize that's kind of something.
I also think that the quality of the friendships is really remarkable, and that goes into how we support one another as writers. Yeah. And now has a direct role in how we approach editing, because there's so much generosity of spirit and a sense of mutual holding of space for people, and there's forgiveness, and that's really rare as well. And so that we really could not be more well positioned to have this endeavor now of the review, because these friendships and the mutual support, writer to writer, it's got everything in it that you would need to sustain.
Well, I fell into Podunk just a few years ago. I don't even know if Maurice remembers this, but I met him when I returned to New Orleans. I'd lived away for 20 some years, and I returned, and he was on stage with the Melanated Writers Group at the NOMA, the New Orleans Museum. And after it was over, he just came over. He was just so friendly. And I was like, whoa, this guy is really friendly and nice. And then I happened to go to grad school and met Tad, and I met Emily later through Peauxdunque Writers itself. But yeah, I'm not going to go into the story about how I became Peauxdunque, 'cause it's crazy. But I have really benefited from the community because they are younger than I am, and they are very ambitious, and it keeps me from getting complacent, because once you get out of grad school and you get that 9 to 5, it would be very easy to just give up on your writing. I mean, a paycheck's coming in, and poetry in particular doesn't really pay. So, I really get something that keeps me strengthened as a writer by being a member. And now, as a poetry editor, first I was terrified, but then I found out there have been lots of people who later became well-known poets who started out as poetry editors and were terrified. So yeah, I'm easing into it more. Yeah.
But I could say we're blessed. I mean, we're jumping a little bit ahead into the review, but to have, Nordette and Emily as genre editors, and also April Pajic, who's our CNF editor, sort of managing the flow of things as the managing editor is one thing, but really being able to rely on, Nordette and Emily and April are so, like, I learned from them as a writer about all the genres, even the genres that I write in, because they're so steeped and focused just in their genre for purposes of the genre editorship. It's great to have this well of experience to draw on,
Well, of course, that goes back to what's great about just being in a writer's group or any group of like-minded people, all going in the same direction you are. You get to learn from them. They get to learn from you, and everybody, benefits. So I mean, it sounds amazing.
Well, that was really, I think, one of the main drivers of the Peauxdunque Writers Alliance itself was this idea of, like, let's not just be a fiction writers group or a poets group. Let's be multi-genre, songwriters, playwrights, anybody who does anything with words. And that may be one of the secrets to why we've lasted so long, is it's fresh and exciting, because we've always got people who are in there doing different things. Even among the fiction writers, we'll have literary fiction writers, we'll have genre fiction writers, and we're always hearing something and digging on something that is outside our wheelhouse, and that keeps it fresh,
Just the ability, I mean, everybody, and you four definitely are, but like just having everyone being open to that. I find so many times, and not just with writers groups, but with groups in general, you get so insular into the one type of thing that you like, or the one type of thing that you do. And then your group just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and less productive no matter what, because you're like you said, nothing is fresh, nothing is new. You're never able to pull in new stuff, and that's fascinating. If I was going to join a group, that would be what I would want. Somebody who, a group like yours, though, where you are open to anyone who writes anything. I saw on your website too, it says filmmakers, so like screenwriters and everything like that as well. That's a bit. Okay, Megan has a question. Who designs the beautiful artwork on the cover of the Peauxdunque Review?
That is an artist in Texas named Ramon Carrasco, and our editor-in-chief, Larry Wormington, who could not be with us.
I don't know if anybody can see that.
Yeah, this evening, is friends with Ramon, and he had an idea for the first cover, issue 1, a finch. Was it a finch? No, it was a sparrow.
No, it was a sparrow.
And it was designed after our longtime founding member, Terry Storr, had a story that she published in Missouri Review called Belly Full of Sparrow. And from that, she got a tattoo of a sparrow. And then when she died of pancreatic cancer a few years ago, which was sort of really kind of the inciting event for the Peauxdunque Review, we decided we would dedicate the first cover to her. So Larry got Ramon to do this beautiful painting of Sparrow, which was that cover, and then it just became a thing. He did a Finch for issue 2. He did the Raven for issue 3. We've got this amazing multicolored pelican that's going to be the cover of issue 4 that I just the other day saw the cover, a picture of. Let me see if I can pull it up and show y'all on the screen.
Just so everyone knows, Tad isn't even kind of driving.
I'm not driving. I'm in the passenger.
Yeah.
Every time I post a picture on my social media, you know, when you're in your car, there will be inevitably someone pop up going, "Oh, I see that tree moving in the background." You know, like, and I'm like, come on. I'm not gonna like do that. Maybe some people are, but I mean, texting me, "Oh, look at that cover."
I'm not sure if you can see it very well because I'm moving around, but that will be the cover of issue 4. So anyway, want to see?
That's exciting. That's like breaking Peauxdunque news, right?
Right.
Because the last time we saw it, it was another in-process picture, but it was a couple of steps behind. So it's always exciting to see where he's at with these paintings.
Yeah, so it's and just talking to Larry about this cover, he just comes up with these hunches, these ideas for the review, like having a hardcover, for instance, just seemed absolutely insane and great. But I'm so glad we've done it, and the writers love having their work in that, and as long as we can do that, we're going to do that. But with the birds, he says, you know, he already has had this vision, and he just shared with me that he wants to do 6 of those. So we're going to continue with Ramon through issues 5 and 6 before we do something else for covers. Crossing fingers, you know, obviously it's presumptuous to say issues 5 and 6, and we're just now going to the printer with issue 4. But,
no, you gotta go. Set the goal and plow right ahead, right toward it.
And we're reading for issue 5, so if you send us stuff.
So that brings us to a question. So who can submit to the Peauxdunque Review, and how do you do that?
Anyone who's not in Peauxdunque can submit to Peauxdunque Review. We have a submittable portal. You can get to it by going to peaudunquereview.com, and we've got something on the top, submissions, and you go there, and there's a link to our submittable portal, which I can't remember that off the top of my head, but just go to our website, and there are guidelines there. We open to regular submissions year-round. And then we also we're very privileged to administer the writing competition in conjunction with the Words and Music Conference, which is coming up. And I see Megan is on here, who directs that. She has released the schedule today, and it is an amazing schedule. But we do that competition usually, I think, between March and mid-July, the submissions for that. And then I'll let Maurice talk about another competition that we're going to be doing in conjunction with Red Hand Press starting soon, that we're really excited about.
Yeah.
Can we announce that one?
It hasn't officially been announced, but I can tell you that it is one with Red Hand Press, directly in response to many events of this year. And it's really this idea that I think that, you know, we as Peauxdunque and Red Hand Press have a role to play in trying to push forward an understanding of equality across the various races. And so it's going to be hot. So I can't wait to get the press release out and talk to everybody about it. Keep your eyes open, because it's going to be a big deal, and it's going to be a big thing. So I'll just say that.
All right. So keep our eyes on the Peauxdunque social media. Is that where we would keep? Okay, just checking.
And also, some people assume because quite a few of our members are located down in New Orleans, that we're looking at Louisiana and New Orleans writers, but actually we want to hear from people everywhere for the review.
So where is everyone now? Where are you guys? Like,
well, I'm in New Orleans.
You're in New Orleans.
You know what?
Ted?
Yeah.
What is it, Maurice? What?
We don't know what he's responding to.
I know.
No, I was just thinking, like, this is the first time that, like, a bunch of us have been gathered, but we're all in different places right now, like literally different cities.
It's true.
And Maurice, yeah, go. Emily, where are you?
I'm in Tennessee. I'm in a very much a podunk town, just north of Nashville.
And Maurice, where are you?
I'm in John Grisham's house in Oxford, Mississippi, which is another podunk.
That it is. And Tad, you're on the move.
And we're lucky. We've got readers and podunk. I'm on the move. I'm currently in Metairie as we speak, but I'm headed to Harvey. So I'll be in Harvey before this is done. But we've got readers in the New Orleans area, in Texas, in Florida, in Georgia, in Tennessee. Trying to think, am I forgetting somebody else?
Maine.
We also have members like in Michigan and California.
Oh, right,
Vermont and Maine. Yeah. So we're not even just Southern.
Right.
So is there a theme to the Podunk Review? Or do you pick themes for each volume or I mean each issue, or is there not particularly a theme overall?
I think what we are always loving to see is, I mean, I maybe I should just speak for what I'm looking for, but I do think that the podunk ethos, if we want to call it that, is really about finding some sort of hidden knowledge within a community. So that could, sometimes that means an externally podunk place. Sometimes it may be an experience within within a place that sounds very cosmopolitan, but there's a story going on that's not known so well. And I'm always looking for that that surprising perspective. And as we know, New Orleans, which is you know, been such a gorgeous place in my life, and has exploded my creative life, is the perfect, you know, gathering spot for that kind of story, right? There are so many secret communities and secret stories underneath this very known, very official story. That's how I see it anyway. That's how I see it. So when I'm reading and I find that in a submission, well, I get so excited, because then I'm being led into something that a voice in a half concealed story, or a half concealed experience that suddenly I'm drawn into. And I think that's something that we are really looking for, or that we just seem naturally drawn to, I should say.
Well, that kind of...
Am I speaking out of turn, guys?
Not at all.
Just not.
I'm curious, Nordette, how that plays out for you when you're looking at the poetry.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say, that while there are only but so many human conditions, and what Emily said is true. You don't want to keep seeing people submitting the same thing. And in this age, we may have some curious situations that we haven't seen before, or we've never thought of before. But then there's also the idea of telling a story or presenting a case for an everyday human condition that we recognize in a different way when we read something. Because, you know, sometimes I'll read something and go like, okay, I've heard that before. Another, I've heard that before. And then you get to one and you think, I haven't heard that one before. And it doesn't mean that the situation is about aliens or stuff, at the bottom of the ocean. It just means that they've made you see that thing in a new light. Now sometimes it is aliens and stuff, but but they've made you see some very ordinary, sometimes troubling, challenging conditions, and then sometimes just the most common of all, the love poem. But everybody writes love poems, including angsty teenagers. So just don't send in a love poem that sounds like all the other love poems we've ever read. So I don't know if I made myself clear, but that's
Sure.
Yeah. I think
sometimes also you get persuaded by just the sheer force of somebody's voice
in language.
It's just that originality and sharpness of that voice can go a long way. You can't help but see a familiar scenario anew when the force of that voice is undeniable.
And that's usually what it is. It's that it's something about the language. And I say that because I remember being young and thinking about writing. I started writing poetry when I was 4, and that I'm old enough to have had the education system still totally into the idea of the romantic writer who is some kind of spirit out of nowhere. You can't really be taught, and it's just there. And if you're prolific, especially when you're young, you start to think, oh, you write when this spirit hits you. And then after a while, you think, oh, I don't have anything unique to say. It's just, I've read all of this stuff before. And then you realize that, no, it's not about trying to prove that you're the most unique individual on the planet. It's that it's you writing the situation. I mean, Tad and I could both write. I'll use a love story as an example again. We could both write a love story. I guarantee you it'll be very different, just because Tad's different from me and I'm different from him. And then there's the language choices, and of course, when you get to poetry, it's other things too, like rhyme. Sometimes it's rhyme, not always. That's getting in more formal, but the language, the way the person, the syntax, the line endings, where they shift your thought, all of that plays in to what you're looking at on the page.
Yeah, and from like a global perspective, I appreciate hearing Emily and Nordette talk about from a genre point of view. Peauxdunque itself, as a writers alliance, grew out of this idea that we figured out very quickly at one of our first meetings 13 years ago that we were all from some other little Peauxdunque place, and fighting to figure out how in the world that the stories we would have to tell could be of importance to be in that greater conversation that writers are always talking about. But then also at the same time, while we're from all these little Peauxdunque places, we had gathered in this grand Peauxdunque of New Orleans, right? And so we came up with this idea of the PEAUXDU, blah, 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 grand Peauxdunque. And so that aesthetic is carried forward into, and we talked about that when we began the review. What we want to see is these narratives and these rhythms and these poems and stories and nonfiction pieces that speak to that have the story from the unexpected place, whether that's an externalized place, as Emily put it, or from some unexpected place interiorly, and that would be the driving aesthetic. And it's broad enough too that if we just see something we love, throw all that out the window, and we're gonna grab it. So.
That's the beauty of being in charge. You can just be like, oh, this is good. Emily Strong says she would like to see you all co-write a love story. You could do it like Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett did with Good Omens, and just send pieces back and forth to each other across until you get this one conglomerate love story.
Sounds good. We've got a Peauxdunque meeting tomorrow night. We'll do it then.
See, just pitch it then, somebody get the ball rolling. It'll be great. So how long does it take for you guys to put together an issue? From once you've gathered submissions through when we've got something in our hand?
I'd say we probably start reading for an issue 7 or 8 months before that issue will end up coming out. And it's getting quicker, right? The longer we exist, the more submissions we're getting, the quicker we fill up what it takes to fill up a book. And it's also different on the odd numbered issues are the ones where we put the competition winners and some of the better like runners up and honorable mentions from the words and music competition. So that by itself fills up a half to 2/3 of a book for those odd numbered issues. But for issue 4 filled up awfully quick with awfully good work. It's just so gratifying to see it. I would say we probably started reading for issue 4 by March. At that point, we had put issue 3 to bed, and we were in production for issue 3, and we're starting to read for issue 4. And I think we closed down issue 4 submissions in mid-July, and we're starting like the pre-production and getting all that ready to go to the printer in the next month, and it'll be out in mid-November. So
that feels like a pretty good turnaround to me. Did COVID affect any of that for you guys? Like getting the review together? Did it shift your timeline at all?
It affected issue 3. Issue 3 was originally supposed to come out the beginning of May. The printer who we use, they had shut down for a couple months, and then they had a backlog. And then at the same time, that actually gave us an opportunity that we built off of. I apologize for what the sunshine is doing back here.
Exciting.
Because with that delay, the world started exploding. Yeah, it's very disco. The world started exploding over the protests after the murders of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor. And so we kind of like paused where we were with what was going to go to the printer and worked to get material that spoke specifically to the moment in time that we are still in now. We thought it would be irresponsible as a literary review to not find work that spoke to what the world is, what the world became while we were in the middle of production of that issue. So yeah, COVID delayed us, but it was a gift because I think we did some things we're really proud of with issue 3 because of that.
Yeah, you had the opportunity to make those changes in the moment when it was most needed. I would think everybody's putting things out now, and that's good. We should keep doing that. But when you had the opportunity to make that shift while it was really happening, while it was starting, that gave you an opportunity that not everybody either had or took advantage of. So
yeah, I think it's helpful when people have a real sense of urgency, that we have the opportunity to do it. So, why not use that opportunity?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The world moves so quickly these days. I find something in books. I think it happens with TV shows and film. All those things, they take time, but we're so used to having all the information is happening right now. I pick it up and I can look at Twitter and I get news and I get on the ground what's happening. And then the book comes out 6 months later and you're like, okay, I feel like I know this already. So I think also an advantage that you guys have with the review is, like you were saying, you're finding that different angle on the same. We all have these universal things that are happening to all of us. We all understand the love story. We all understand these different things that are happening to us, but then finding that different angle. So you guys are able to be current with the current climate of what's happening in the world, but also you're looking for these stories that are showing it from just a little bit of a different angle or a different view of the same things. And that's really an advantage. that I think, you guys took advantage of. So.
Well, when you think about major catastrophes, pandemics, and situations like everybody saw what happened to George Floyd, you always see a lot of art come out of those types of terrifying, embarrassing, shameful, horrific, death-oriented events. And so we expect, and I don't just mean Peauxdunque, I mean every form of art. Just like with Katrina, when Katrina happened, remember, we got all these things about Katrina, music and plays and poems and nonfiction books and fiction books. I know we're going to see a lot of that, and it will be the same for everybody else. The people who are saying exactly almost, the same feeling, listen, the same emotion, those will fall by the wayside. And then there'll be those people who just said something that just millions of people want to latch on to. And I don't know if that'll be with Peauxdunque or where that will be, but that will happen because that's the way it works with art.
When something that's fascinating to me about COVID, especially, and about just the spark, and I hate to say it that way because we all know that it's been going on for years and years and years, and this go around, George Floyd was that spark. And the way that, because COVID was happening at the same time all over the world, not just in America, not just in one town, like Katrina is, is New Orleans and the Gulf South, and that's really it, and COVID, and then George Floyd, and that unrest went across the globe. The art that comes out of this won't just be floodwaters. It won't just be the kids here that do it. I'm really looking forward to what we see come out of the world's art community related to COVID. And it's I can't wait. I'm very excited about that. And sometimes you have to explain that to people because that's really awful. Why are you excited about the outcome that way? And I'm like, well, it'll be good because some of it is going to change the world. There's going to be something come out of this in the art world. I think it is going to be amazing.
Well, a lot of the art, go on. I'm sorry.
Well,
oh no, I was apologizing. I ranted a little bit there.
I was just going to say a lot of the art, and I'm talking about all genres, all media. When you look at it, you had the French Revolution sparked a whole different kind of art and focus. World War II, brought about the modernist and the images, all of this, and the change, the Picasso and abstract art, all of this stuff. There's a change that we're going to see because all of everything that's going on right this minute. We're in a very unique moment.
I also think that there's something, just to speak for myself, and I think for the rest of us too, that to be in an editorial position during a period like this is a very hopeful position to be in. There's something inherently hopeful about saying, no, we're staying open. We're reading for the future. I think of it that way, that there's, I know I can, again, just speaking for myself, when, you start to see people really, truly despairing and making a decision. It's like, well, I'm just going to commit to the existence of the future and commit to the existence of art in my future. And I'm going to fight for that future. And I've got, brothers and sisters in arms in that effort in my life. And so that cue keeps coming, and we keep seeing what people will do and inviting people to join us. And to me, that's inherently hopeful. And particularly when I read things about climate crisis that are so demotivating in their despair, and they drag you into that place and leave you there. And I think, well, what destroys your agency quicker than that? You have to have a language or some sort of framework by which we can sustain our hope. And it's my belief that we can do that in our space. It's what we're trying to do, is to just say, we'll be doing what we're doing. This is the center of our worlds is the creation of this art. And so we'll be doing it. You know, when you get your work together, share it with us, please, because we'll be there. It's what we do. So that's how I keep my own hope going.
I like that a lot. You know, it's a dramatic time we're in. I mean, not obviously the first person to say it. It's not a moment. It's not a movement. It's not a moment. It's a movement. But how you approach that movement, whether that movement is how we look at our place in the world as the pandemic has revealed the world to us, how we look at our place in society as the movement that has grown up around the murders of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and too many others. Whether you approach that from a point of demotivating despair or from a positive and constructive place where art can play a positive and constructive role. I haven't really thought about it in words like that, Emily, until you just said it the way you said it. But I'd like to think that our role as a review is on that positive and constructive side to positively and constructively deal with these things that could be so despairing and demotivating, and be a bulwark against despair and demotivation. You really just
Well, and I think it's also helpful when we think about the very, very, very long tradition of all of these genres and all of these cultures and what has survived so often, right? Are works of art. And often that's how we know things about civilizations that rose and fell and times in past. And so for me, I guess early on, you know, that continuity and that long tradition, that whatever it looked like, that my commitment was to that, right? Not just to this little moment and, you know, whatever I was reading or whatever I was writing, the fate of it, but of this long tradition. And that if the commitment stayed to that, then hope is much easier to find. Well, then that's helpful in times like these, isn't it? I mean, and so I don't know. I feel very strongly that that's our contribution to this moment, is to be here to be in a position to contribute to that.
That's at the bookstore, you know, just being a bookseller is all, in a way, it's a gatekeeper in a way as well. People come in and they don't know what they're looking for. And we had, you know, back in April and May, this huge push of anti-racist books. And there's that top 5, there's that top 10. Everybody knows the titles. Those are the ones on everyone's radar. And when people come in, I'm like, but have you heard of this? And maybe this is the 20th one down the list or something. You know, you've seen this, but I'm like, these are good too. These are amazing. You should read this and you should read this. And here's some fiction because you think it's not going to help. You think it's not the same. You think it's whatever. I'm like, no. You don't absolutely always have to be looking for the most academic way to approach everything. I'm like, if you absorb 5 fiction books that are set, you know, with characters, Black characters in situations that are not situations that you come from, you are also putting yourself and opening your mind and going, wait, maybe this is a little different. And I'm now exposing myself to that. And now we've opened the door to go through, you know, and look for other things. And that position, you all as editors of the review, and there are these other sort of gatekeeper positions. And it does feel much like you all are speaking to, like, a privilege in a way, and a duty when you're in that position. And I appreciate that outlook for sure from you all.
As Stan Lee says, right? With great power comes great responsibility. Sorry, I'm one of my teenagers guiding me through the Marvel Cinematic Universe during this whole pandemic. Everything has everything to do with the MCU now. So.
It's all connected. It's all connected.
Well, I know what you just said regarding people seeing in fiction. I know we have somebody in here, in this group right here, who's gotten emails and comments about seeing issues about race that they didn't see until they read his book. And his book, his novel, not his academic, not his dissertation, his novel. I don't know. I wonder who that is.
I'm just gonna put a link to purchase it in the comments. So.
Well, can I say that, of course, it is a great blessing to have a book out in any time. And it is a great blessing to have a book out when, as an author, I was very specifically thinking about the problems that we've always faced in this country. But I do want to back up for a second and say that one of the things that I really enjoy about being involved with our magazine, other than the fact that it's aesthetically beautiful, and it's one of the very few hardcover independent literary magazines. Yeah, hardback. It's just the cover's beautiful. The way that it's built is beautiful. The care that goes to it is beautiful also. But all of us in Peauxdunque have struggled in the same way that all writers struggle, which is to say, we have still going through times of submitting poems, submitting stories, submitting novels, trying to get our work into the world. And it's always a struggle because the market is big, but there's only so much space for any of us. And there's really something special to me about being on the other side of that process. I'm not a parent, but I know Tad is a parent, and he might nod when I say this. It's the idea of having once been a child, and then you take care of somebody. And it's the idea of once having been an amateur writer trying to get published, and now being on the other side of that wall and kind of going, I know how you feel out there. And if you're taking a good shot at it, we're going to give you a good chance to be in our magazine. So, in a broad sense, we are this sort of safe harbor for all the writers out there who are trying to get their work out into the world. So like Emily said, to have, their representation of what the world is like right now exist for people in the future to understand who we are and what we've been like. And on the point of what's happened this year with, Breonna Taylor and Arbery and George Floyd, I was just so happy to be involved with a group of people where as soon as it happened and we had this opportunity to respond in real time in the magazine, with a short deadline, we were all on it. Nobody objected to it. People were like, this is the right thing to do. And I think that when this current spell that the country is under wears off and we look back, we're going to ask the questions about who was trying to support truth and kindness and hope. And, Peauxdunque as a group and our magazine in particular, a big part of that project of trying to lay a foundation for what is good in this world.
There are these moments that you're given to decide which side of the line you're going to stand on. And a couple of them have happened this year. There have been a couple different types of those lines drawn. And I think it is very telling when you choose the side for yourself and you look around and you go, oh, good. We're all on the same side of this. Awesome. Sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes you look around and go, oh, they're still over there. But that is life. That is life. And yes, there we go.
Yay.
I have them in there. Mine's on the wall over there. Mine's on my wall. They're too small over there. I still have to get Maurice to sign my book. It is crazy pants that Maurice has not signed my copy of his book because we did the launch party and I left my ARC at home and have subsequently not, of course, had it with me any time that I have been at an event with Maurice or run into him randomly or anything like that. But one day He was supposed to come to our book club. Our book club read We Cast a Shadow, and it was supposed to be in person, but then it turned into a Zoom event, so we didn't get it signed then either. It'll happen.
Do you know I have 2 people in my family right now reading your book? Two different people right now reading your book, Maurice, and like totally unconnected to each other. That's very interesting to me. This is happening now, but
it'll be interesting to sit back and hear what they have to say, since they're not connected and they're not going to be, conferring with each other or anything like that. You get 2 completely different.
Yeah, I'll have to, surreptitiously jot down what they tell me about.
Well, to Raina, when the time comes, Raina, I will sign every page of your book. Just let me know when.
Okay.
And to Emily, thank you. Thank you for sharing my work, Emily. I appreciate it, because it's not my job to convert people, but I do like the fact that people who may not have read it otherwise are reading it, and that makes me feel good inside.
Yeah, I'm gonna forget you said that, because that would take days. So we can agree on a nice sentiment on one page.
Okay.
In other words, don't mess up her copy. That's what she's telling you. I love you, but don't mess up the book.
Right? Yeah. I'm not a dog-eared person. We cannot just be taking notes on the whole thing and stop. Oh my God. They force even the younger grades to highlight and mark all over their books now. And I'm like, oh, it hurts. It hurts me. I was not, even when I was asked to do that in school, I was one of those people that would stick those little Post-it notes all over the outside. I couldn't bring myself to do the highlighting and the underlining in the actual book. And now, I watch my son do it, and I'm like, oh, God, do you want a second copy so we can just pretend that never happened?
This is a habit of mine. I used to do lots of marginalia, and I fell away completely. I think because I read a lot quicker than I did before, but I recently was reading a lot of Seamus Heaney poems, and I had my copy from 20 years ago of Open Ground, selected poems. And so I was staring at, little Emily from 20 years ago, her marginalia, and it was hilarious and endearing. So I don't know. I'm of 2 minds about that. I'm kind of glad that it was there, but then on the other hand, some of it I really am. Was it really that important?
I'm of 2 minds too.
But anyway, it was touching, I must say.
I would tell anybody who purchases the Peauxdunque Review, they should definitely mark it up as much as they want to.
Yes.
From the front to the back, and then buy a second clean copy. Keep on their shelf to look pretty.
See?
That's right.
And if you do want a copy of the Peauxdunque Review, we have the first, second, and the new 3rd issue on the shelf at Garden District Bookshop. It does not show up on our website because the way it's categorized as a book and as a review. But if you give us a call or you stop in, we can get you one. And if you call, we can ship it. We ship anywhere. So we can get you a copy of the Peauxdunque Review.
Please, please, please go through Garden District to get it. Nothing would make us happier. I'm so excited, Raina, that y'all are carrying it on your shelves. We also can buy them through our website, peauxdunquereview.com, but I think we actually are selling them through y'all cheaper than you can get them on our website. I might be wrong about that. I'm most excited if people bought them through the bookstore. That just I don't know, there's something about that feels great to me.
Well, it works as a partnership. You guys you originated in New Orleans. You're I don't know, headquartered, even though you have writers and members all over in New Orleans, and we're all a team, the authors, the writers alliances, the editors, the booksellers. We have to support each other and be a team, and that's part of why we're here doing this. Everyone, hello.
Yeah.
Linda came in a little late. We sort of answered this question earlier. How long have you known each other? So let's go back and ask it a little bit differently. So you said Maurice and Tad, you guys were founding members, is that correct, of the Peauxdunque Alliance? And then,
yeah.
Right, 2007. So did you guys know each other before that?
Maurice and I started writing together in 2005.
Oh.
Yeah, this is what? This is like our iron anniversary. What is the 15 years in like the wedding thing? Is that like
Oh.
Let's call it the book. Let's call it the literary review anniversary. People should buy Peauxdunque reviews to celebrate your and my anniversary as writers together.
It's the crystal anniversary.
And basketball anniversary.
Right.
Basketball bruises.
So you guys haven't been able to meet, like, do you normally meet in person? How often do you guys normally meet as a Writers Alliance?
As a Writers Alliance, we meet monthly. And we always, because we have members who aren't in New Orleans, we always kind of had a very rudimentary technological setup to try to like Skype in Emily or Jed, who's our features editor and lives in Chattanooga, or different members, different places. And we never really did that very well. I think the people who lived out there, Emily can talk to this, had a kind of a tough, delayed action Max Headroom kind of experience. So since the pandemic, we've gotten a little more technologically adept because we all meet virtually through like Zoom. Tomorrow night, we're actually going to have our first kind of hybrid in-person outdoors in my backyard at a distance / Zoom meeting. But we do that monthly.
I must say, this is one of the only benefits of the pandemic is that, you know, everybody's in my virtual boat on the Peauxdunque meetings. So, you know, it is exciting to see everybody close up and, you know, so it has drastically improved my technological experience of remotely Peauxdunque. Yeah.
Remotely Peauxdunque. We should have t-shirts, remotely Peauxdunque.
That makes it sound like I'm down in Peauxdunque.
I kind of love that. I have noticed that the Zoom events kind of level the playing field. There's a lot of people who live in little towns, Peauxdunque towns, who don't have bookstores. And if they do, those bookstores aren't big enough to bring in bigger authors. So they don't end up with these events. And then plenty of people that love, you know, are reading and love books, but don't ever really get to see any of these authors. And now that we're doing these Zoom events, people are tuning in from all over the world. And everyone's on the same playing field. No one feels left out because they live in this little town and couldn't make it to New Orleans or whatever. Here we are. We're all talking on the same thing. I love that.
Garden District has gone international. You know, it's like now anybody in the world can see what you're doing, which is pretty cool.
It has been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. Sometimes you ask people where they're from and they're just like, Spain. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Did you say Spain? What are you doing? Why does it feel like that guy in Spain should have better things to do than like watching this? I don't know why. He has nothing to do either. Speaking of that, you guys are watching, you can type where you're watching from in the comments. That's always fun.
Well, I know a number of groups, not just ours, have said, and people putting on who usually have live events, a lot of them are saying they're not going to give this up. From now on, they'll be doing, you know, when we get out of this pandemic, they'll be doing both.
I can easily see that because, you know, for similar reasons, like Emily said, you know, if you're always sort of on the outskirts of these meetings because you're the only one logging in from out of town, if you work in a Zoom hybrid type thing or a second meeting that has it, you know, that's all Zoom, then you all get to really meet and talk in the same playing field. And I
really hope those things continue.
And I think for like authors doing book tours, now I'm just throwing this out here, but here's my thought. Let's say you had a 5 or an 8 city tour, 10 cities, doesn't matter. What if you tacked maybe in the beginning or at the end, a virtual event on top of this tour? You could cut a couple of cities off the tour if you wanted to, throw on a couple of Zoom events on either side, because it's true. We have had people tuning in from places that could never make it to New Orleans or to any other city you would have on your tour typically. and allow those people to tune in. Just throwing it out there.
I think that in this era, anything is possible. And a bit of family lore from Podunk is that we had thought for many years about starting our own magazine, but I think it was a combination of having the right people in the organization at the same time, and the fact that like producing things has gotten a little bit easier. There's all this digital technology that makes it easier to communicate, and so now we exist because we were the right people in the right place at the right time. And so it gives me pleasure because I think maybe 10 years ago, it would have been a lot harder to do this. So to be here right now with our magazine as a group, with Garden District, and people anywhere in the world seeing what we're doing, it really is the culmination of, when good folks are together, good things tend to happen. And I just love it so much.
Absolutely. Well, you guys, we made it to 6 o'clock. So I want to thank all of you for joining me for Virtual Happy Hour. I appreciate it so much. It has been great talking with all of you. And
It's been great talking with you.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
Yeah, get to maybe I'll get to meet you in person.
You know where to find me whenever this whole thing lifts. You just stop by Garden District, and I will be there probably.
Okay.
And everybody, like I said, the Podunk Review is available online from the Podunk website, which I will put in the comments down here. And you can purchase it from Garden District Bookshop via the phone or stopping into the shop, wear your mask. We will ship them anywhere in the world.
And they are fast shippers, I have to say. I got from another virtual event, Amanda Boyden's book, and
I just got it too. Me too. Same here.
fast. So I'm plugging their shipping.
Hey, I mean, we usually things go out that day or the next day, depending on what time of day you call. And the post office has been doing a lot better. There was about a month where things that was going wherever they were going. It was very fun to watch the tracking sometimes, but they seem to be getting back on track, so we can get it to you pretty quickly. All right, you guys, you have a good night. Thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.